Hey everybody, this is Gabe, and this is week 8 of the Children's Book Challenge. Now, I did miss last week, week 7. I've actually been out of town and had some things come up, so I wasn't able to do a video or anything last week. But where I'm at is editing, and actually, I think I've have completed editing my manuscript. Now, there are several different ways that you can do that. They have said, I've heard it said before that you write the first draft with your heart and you write the second draft with your head. Meaning you just pour it all out, all that you are, pour out the story just as raw as can be, trying to get it all down. Then you go back over it, fixing and actually looking at consistency and flow and stuff like that. Now, I do think that's a good way of approaching that, but I myself have kind of more of a what I term a wet on wet type of writing. Now, what I mean by that, the wet on wet, in art, there is a type of painting where it's wet on wet. What I mean by that is when you paint, some people, they'll paint some and then let that dry so that they can come back over it with more paint, more colors, and that keeps the colors and the textures and everything from mixing. Now, I have a style wet on wet. It actually you'll paint the whole time. It's wet on wet, so you'll paint, your sky, and then right on top of that, without it drying at all, then you'll paint the clouds, or you paint your landscape. However it is, whatever you're painting wet paint on top of wet paint, and what that does is it allows the colors and elements that you're painting can sometimes mix, and that's part of the process is having it mix. Now, when it comes to writing, what I mean by wet on wet writing is that I actually edit as I write. So I'm actually writing my first and second draft as I write. Now, and I tend to like that because it allows fluctuations in flow. It helps me keep flow better, but it also sometimes drives the story in a different direction than I originally thought. Now, when I mention wet on wet painting, the most recognizable artist of that style is Bob Ross. And we all love Bob Ross, or at least the cool people do. And he has been quoted as saying, there are no mistakes. There's just happy accidents. And that's what I think when I write in the wet on wet style, if you will, that I do. It tends to take me directions sometimes a little different than what I originally thought. Sometimes a character will have a different type of persona, not completely different, though that can happen, but sometimes it's a slightly different persona because I'll go back and I'll read what I wrote. It's like, well, I'm not sure if I want that. And so I'll go back and rewrite it. So I'm actually doing my first and second draft at the same time. And that's what I've done with this book. So when I first wrote it, I actually did go through as I was writing it, write both my first and second draft. I went through and made sure that everything was flowing pretty well and everything like that. Now, the subsequent drafts 3 through whenever I get it completed, that's when I get a little bit more technical, trying to figure out if I really am making sense. And a lot of that you have to take time. Now, I've given myself a lot of time on this one. But one of the things that I've looked at with this particular children's book that I wrote years ago that I'm trying to get published now, this story actually has animals. And as I was reading through the story, I was curious if I had too many animals. I have six animals in it, and they all play a part. And then why that matters is because of word count. They say the optimal word count for a children's picture book, which is what my book is between 300 and 600 words. Mine sits around 650. So the question is that I'm asked myself is that too many? And it all would come within the animals. Do I need to cut it down to 4? So I sat there and looked at it. what animal would be more important than the other. And so I was sitting there, part of the editing process, trying to figure that out. Actually, what I decided to do is just keep it all. If a publisher picks up the book but says I have too many animals, then I'll cut them out then. But until then, I'm going to keep them in there because I think they're all important. Even though I'm a little over the optimal word count, I'm not too far off. So I'm keeping that. And that's one of the biggest things that I've had to do this time around is figure that out. I've also tweaked it, taken out some filler words that I've just put in there just to fill. So I've spent the past few weeks editing, and I think I got a manuscript that I feel comfortable turning into a publisher. So that's where I'm at. Just finished editing the book, and I'm ready to take the next step, try to figure out the publishing aspect. How do I get this published? And so these next week or two or three or maybe even longer is actually going to be figuring out how to take this manuscript that I feel comfortable with and actually get it to a publisher to see if they'll publish it. So that's where I'm at, and that's what I'm going to be doing next time around. But until then, this is Gabe saying, tempted chance to try it, get out there and just get to it. All right, we'll catch you later. Bye.